Welcome back to another new edition of Inside the Middle East, the program that takes you on a comprehensive look over what's happening inside the Middle East and the Arab region. We give you a full detailed news and reported vision over the latest happenings, the conflicts, the aspirations and the events, the latest events that are taking place. And we start off with the activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He will receive, of course, Egypt's national football team on Saturday, along with its technical and administrative staff, in recognition of their outstanding performance at the 2026 World Cup. And we all know how Egypt have been so proud with this national team, the achievement taking us to the 16th round of the Mondial or the World Cup 2026. Nevertheless, even if they didn't bring with them the trophy, but still to the whole world, not only to Egypt, they are the winners and they deserve all respect and the love of all Egyptians. The meeting also is following a warm public welcome that is held for the team upon its arrival at Al Alamein International Airport. It has already happened, and we have seen the Egyptians chanting and applauding, waving with love and cheering the members of the national team. All the football players were waving to their fans, and their fans also were cheering them at the airport of Al Alamein, and that was yesterday. And Egypt's World Cup journey came to a heartbreaking end, as we all know, in Atlanta Stadium after a dramatic 3-2 defeat to Argentina team, sending the defending champions into the quarter-finals. Despite the defeat, the Pharaohs made history by reaching the round of 16, as we know, and by this they marked the country's best ever performance. Even to other teams, they were the best in this tournament. The official reception at Al Alamein Airport is followed by a presidential meeting that is expected today and highlights the state's appreciation for the national team's achievement and its distinguished representation at the World Cup 2026. Moving on to Iran, that insisted on Saturday it had kept its word on a ceasefire within the United States after President Donald Trump insisted the truce was over, but that he had agreed to further negotiations with Iran. The comments mark a new law in relations between the foes after an exchange of fire this week that rocked a shaky agreement aimed at turning the months-long ceasefire into durable peace and threatened a return to full-scale regional war. Trump also ramped up the rhetoric between the warring sides, threatening to completely decimate Iran if it attempted or succeeded in assassinating him. It came a day after the president agreed to further negotiations with Iran, even as he repeated its assertion that the ceasefire was over just weeks after Washington and Tehran signed the memorandum of understanding pushing for peace. While there have been no direct talks between Iran and the U.S. since last month, Iranian media reported that a delegation from mediator Qatar was in Tehran after the sides exchanged strikes. And earlier this week, at a NATO summit, Trump also declared the ceasefire over, saying, if Tehran, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. And a U.S. delegation is expected to arrive in Lebanon to follow the negotiations and implementing Israel's withdrawal from pilot zones in the south. Lebanon is demanding that Israel withdraw from its zones before taking part in a new round of negotiations that is scheduled for July 15th to 16th in Rome. The U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, Michel Issa, he told President Joseph Aoun that an American military delegation will arrive in Beirut in the coming days to determine the mechanism for implementation on the ground. The agreement, rejected by Hezbollah, do not set a timetable for Israel's withdrawal, and Israeli officials have also vowed that their forces will remain a security zone which is 10 kilometers deep as long as Hezbollah remains armed. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun, for his part, once again called on the U.S. to exert pressure on Israel to halt military operations and comply with provisions of the framework. Still with the same issue, a senior U.S. official is saying that U.S. is demanding that Iran make a public statement saying the Strait of Hormuz is open and that ships crossing the vital corridor won't be attacked anymore, adding that internal Tehran power struggles and have made it difficult to reach and keep a deal. The U.S. official said the resumption of strikes this week came after what they described as a rogue faction of Iranian hardliners trying to sabotage the ceasefire between Tehran and Washington. And we have more details coming up. Senior U.S. officials said the U.S. is demanding that Iran make a public statement saying the Strait of Hormuz is open and that ships crossing the vital corridor won't be attacked anymore, adding that internal Tehran power struggles have made it difficult to reach and keep a deal. The U.S. official said the resumption of strikes this week came after what they described as a rogue faction of Iranian hardliners trying to sabotage the ceasefire between Tehran and Washington. The official said the U.S. is working on pressing Iran to make a public statement that the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway for world energy markets, is open and free to ships to transit. On a call with reporters, the official suggested that leaders in Iran ever told their U.S. counterparts that the ship strikes were a mistake and that the country hoped to continue negotiations despite that. Officials added that Trump didn't care that the firing on ships came from a hardline faction and responded with more powerful counterattacks, showing Iran that there would be no consequences no matter who was behind it. But moments before the U.S. official spoke, Tehran's diplomat at the UN told reporters that any activity in the Strait of Hormuz, including its opening or demining operations, rests exclusively with Iran. Iran has said the strait must now be under its sole control and that vessels should begin to pay fees to Tehran, even though the world for decades has considered it an international waterway. Iran's grip on the strait during the conflict led to global energy crisis, though oil prices have sharply dropped since wartime highs of 120 a barrel. Welcome back once again. An official at U.S. Donald Trump's peace board said that difficulties are hindering the deployment of the 20,000 troop stabilization force in Gaza under Trump's stalled peace plan that was agreed upon earlier after the Sharm el-Sheikh summit. Gaza remains in ruins from 2 years of full-scale war, and Israel launched in October 2023, on October 7th, as a group of Palestinian technocrats known as the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza has remained outside Gaza. After a ceasefire deal was struck, Trump set out a plan for Gaza that provided for a surge in humanitarian aid administered by a group of Palestinian technocrats and Israeli forces withdrawing. But the plan has stalled amid Israeli continuous military strikes in the territory and Israeli threats to expand its area of control in Gaza to 70% of the enclave. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Saturday said that Tehran kept its word on ceasefire with the United States after Donald Trump insisted the truce was over, but that he had agreed to further negotiations with a group there. We're very delighted to be having, for more details, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, the journalist, the writer, and the political analyst. Good afternoon, Mr. Khoury.
Good afternoon, Dina.
Why do you think the United States is asking Iran and insisting that they announce that the Strait of Hormuz is publicly open?
in order to get back to that memorandum of understanding that no longer continues to be effective. The Iranians when they attacked ships that were not using the designated route that Iran put for the Hormuz Channel, the memorandum of understanding pretty much collapsed. And the Americans went ahead and they started military strikes against Iran all across the Hormuz Channel beach, if you like, but all the way up north, and some attacks inside of Iran. Now, this collapse basically started leading everyone to think that we're back into hostilities. The price of oil went up again. And what the Americans and Iranians are trying to achieve now is to get back to that memorandum of understanding. The memorandum of understanding, by the way, is not an agreement. The memorandum of understanding is a framework that could lead to an agreement, if it ever does lead to an agreement. But under the memorandum of understanding, there should be a ceasefire. President Donald Trump came out and declared that the ceasefire is over and there will be no ceasefire. But he's willing to get back into negotiations without a ceasefire. So this is basically where we stand today. President Trump is basically threatening Iran either to declare that the Hormuz Channel is open as it was at the outset of that memorandum of understanding, or there will be more attacks and the attacks will be heightened.
Right.
So this is basically where we stand today.
Right.
Apparently, Dina, there are, I mean, even the attacks that happened, it was Iranian instigated, and therefore it gives the impression that maybe in Iran there are different parties that are making decisions. One that does not want to see the memorandum of understanding materialize, and the diplomatic one that is engaged in negotiations that does. So that is the impression that is out there today, and this is also information that's leaking out of Iran.
Right. Concerning that particular new conflict, which is the attacking the ships that are passing through the passage, the water tunnel that is, or the waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. It is very obvious, and as according to the Iranian officials, it was not an official strike from the government, but they said it was from another faction or someone who did not belong even to the government. So how exactly did that happen, and what are the complications that are taking place right now, and how is it going to affect the peace agreement?
Well, the Iranian official government, if you like, those who are actually negotiating with the U.S., are now giving the impression that there are radical Iranians who do not want to see the peace, and they are the ones who carried out the attack. Now, that also puts Iran in a very bad situation. So Iran is not in control of all of its military apparatuses and structure. This is a very important question. If it is true, but then what countries declare in the middle of war may not be true. And it could have been a test to see if America is going to allow Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. When Iran set a certain path for all ships to pass and demands that these ships get a green light from Iran in order to pass, attacking ships that are not using that designated passage is an attempt to send a message to all of the ships and to the world that unless ships actually adhere to Iranian dictates, then they are going to be attacked. I personally thought, Tina, that there is some kind of a non-governmental, non-official faction out there that has the ability to attack ships in the Hormuz Channel, especially beyond the Hormuz Channel where the actual ships were attacked. So maybe that was a test, and the American reply came very fast, and therefore the Iranians are probably now rethinking that strategy. But the Iranians are never going to let down the issue of control over the Hormuz Channel. What they have done, however, is they've accepted to share that responsibility of controlling the Hormuz with Oman. And that's progress, which is something that can actually be positive, especially that Iran has declared that it can be in conjunction and through talks with all of the countries in the region. And therefore, maybe some kind of an agreement can actually be reached, since it's not just Iran and Oman, but the whole region can actually be involved in the talks in order to reach such an agreement. And by the way, talks over that issue are ongoing right now. They are not something that are going to be discussed in the future. This is something that they are actually talking about now, and they're working on it now. And there are leaks from that track, if you like, that suggests that it is actually possible to reach some kind of an agreement that is acceptable. Therefore, yeah.
Does that reflect real power struggles inside Iran, according to the claims of one of the U.S. officials? Is it that true, or it is minor? I mean, that would reflect a lack of control, at least on the Strait of Hormuz at this very critical time by Iran. So does it really reflect a big struggle inside, a huge one inside the country?
The reason why they're saying that there is a power struggle and there are two different factions, there are two different lines, etc., is because they just buried Ali Khamenei, Iran's leader, that was killed by the United States and Israel. And therefore, there is a huge amount of emotion. We've seen millions of people come out in respect of their dead leader, etc. So this kind of environment is conducive to this kind of talk, but I personally do not doubt, I doubt that this is an internal power struggle. I think that this was planned within that environment in order to try to achieve full control over the Hormuz Channel. And they were trying to get away with it, and the Americans immediately acted. So this scenario of a power struggle is a great excuse to use in order to say those who are negotiating with America are actually people who are looking forward to reach a proper peace agreement between the United States of America and Iran, and therefore it could just be an excuse. I personally doubt that because the Iranian military is the one that did the attacks, by the way. I mean, this is not a fringe group that suddenly appeared from nowhere.
Right. At this note,
and therefore, yeah.
At this note, I would like to thank you, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, the journalist, the writer, and the political analyst. Thank you very much for talking to Inside the Middle East, and you have a good evening. And now, we leave you with that upcoming feature.
The river rises in Turkey and flows southeast across Syria and through Iraq, formed by the confluence of the Karso and Murat rivers in the American highland. The Euphrates stands between major ranges of the Taurus Mountains to the Syria plateau. It then flows through western and central Iraq to unite with the Tigris River and continues as Shatt al-Arab to the Persian Gulf. Its valley was heavily irrigated in ancient times, and many great cities, some of whose ruins remain, lined its banks. With the Tigris, it defines an area known historically as Mesopotamia. The Euphrates River is a unique watercourse with different aquatic biomes, rivers, streams, lakes, and wetlands. It provides various habitats for aquarium, flora, and fauna. Many kinds of birds reside along or migrate via the river and the marshes, feeding on fish and reptiles. Approximately 66 fish species exist in the Tigris-Euphrates river system.
And that was it for this edition of Inside the Middle East for today. Many thanks to all of you. And until we see you again, that's a goodbye. And stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV.